to say that this is a beautiful facility. This is a way nicer school than the one that I used to teach at. I have no idea what the rationale was in building a new one, because this is beautiful. Anyways, this is sort of new for me because I do not actually normally preach at any place other than the church in which I attend. And so that's a little bit different. I know John, he helped us as an interim pastor when we were between pastors. And one of the things that he sort of insisted on here is that one Sunday a month, we'd have somebody else in to preach, and he suggested that when we got a pastor, we should do that. And I'm a really good, I agree with that, actually, because I know that in Moosomin Baptist Church, there was always a time here when the pastor couldn't make it, and we would have somebody preach, and it would normally be this one person. I'm not going to give a name, although he's died now, so I wouldn't really embarrass him, but he was terrible. Absolutely terrible. But in the end here, it worked out pretty good, because I'd have to always sit there and look really carefully and listen really carefully and say, what is he trying to say? And then when the pastor would come back here, we'd appreciate him so much more. So I think this is what John's idea was here today, getting me to preach to you, so you can appreciate him much better once I'm gone here, and we'll go from there. I'd like to say that whatever I'm saying here today, I'm not picking on anyone, because actually, other than John, I don't know anybody here except for Bill Wright, who used to come to our church in Moosomin when he was teaching in Moosomin. So I don't know what's going on here. John hasn't really told me very much anything about any people or anything like that here, and if it seems like I'm isolating you out here, I'm not. Okay? I just like to say that. The other thing is that when I preached this sermon here in Moosomin, I had done one a few weeks ahead of time here. It was on strength and courage. And some of the things I talk about today may require some strength and courage on your part. And I think we need to prepare ourselves here right now, that when we listen to the Word of God here, that we might have the Spirit saying that I might have to change. Don't think of this as something here where I'm just going to get my ears tickled a little bit here and entertained, and I can talk to my friends afterwards and stuff like that. Think about what God is telling you, and that might require some change. So gather your strength here and do that. Now, as I begin this, I'd like to tell you that one of the things that I really like to often do most weekdays, my wife and I here, we watch Jeopardy. It doesn't always work, but often we do. And I think I'm pretty good. I can have the 61 clues that they give there. I can usually get about 20. So I feel that's awesome, unless it's a special thing here where they have returning champions and stuff like that, and they're harder. I can't get that many. Anyways, we're going to do a little bit of Jeopardy. So we're going to put this up here, and with some of you people doing quizzing, I'm not sure if they're all gone here or not here. You guys should be really good at this. I've got 3 questions, and they should be very easy for you people, I think. We'll find out, but I've got some fabulous prizes here. Chocolate. Okay? So here's the rules here. What you got to come here, and John, if it's a real mess up here, you're going to have to decide who gets here first and gets the chocolate. Ready? Okay. Guys, your knees ready. Okay, first clue. Here it is. Put her up. The greatest commandment on which hang all the laws of the prophets. There you go. This guy's got it here. Okay, second one. Put the next one up. The second greatest commandment, like the first.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
There we go. We got it. Now, this third one is a little bit more difficult. Okay? Go ahead, put it up here. I guess I pulled on the cord there, shouldn't I? Okay. The single act that allows one to obey the two great biblical commands. Okay, that's one we don't really think about very often. Something you don't really realize, that the two biggest commandments are to love the Lord your God and to love others. But there are some things that make that next to impossible. And this is one of them. This is one single act here. Let me give you some hints as to what exactly is going on here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my family. And until I preach this thing here, I think some of my kids didn't even know some of this stuff here. The people that I'm talking about here have died, most of them anyway. And one of the things here that happened, I know when I was growing up here, we had, whenever we wanted paper, sketch paper and stuff like that, we would use some old stationery from Thiessen farm equipment. My grandfather used to live in Hepburn, Saskatchewan. You can go to the next slide here. Here's a picture of what that looks like now. That building is still there. That used to be Thiessen Farm Equipment. It's now a senior center. But that's a picture from way back. You can see there's horses and stuff in front. They sold international harvester equipment. That would include all kinds of stuff here too, like for your farm as well. And anyways, my uncle, he was the oldest son, second oldest in the family. There's three people. My aunt, my uncle here was the son here. At one time here had bit of a problem here, I guess. And what he did was, I'm not sure how things worked back in the day there, but anyways, he was able to sell that without my grandfather knowing, pick up with his girlfriend and move off to Lewiston, New York, which is right by Niagara Falls. And then eventually he picked up and moved there to Florida. I do not think you can get any further away from Hepburn, Saskatchewan than Tampa, Florida. Very far away. We almost never saw him. We didn't see him occasionally. He'd get a truck, be a trucker and stuff like that. He took the money from the business and bought some equipment here for excavating, and he built swimming pools and stuff like that. That's one of my family. I brought this here so you remember. International Harvester Farm Equipment. Thiessen Farm Equipment. Then my aunt, his sister, oldest in the family there, she had several kids, and one of the ones who was about my age, maybe a year or two older. And anyways, my aunt and her had a confrontation at one time. I have no idea what it's about, but I do know that after that, my cousin, she said, "Mom, I'm not going to talk to you ever again." And she took off and went to, I'm not sure, we think it was Calgary, and she worked in the oil patch. I'm not sure doing what, but they never talked again. My aunt died, she wasn't even at the funeral. I'm not sure what it's about. But there again, we have distance. There again, we have a confrontation. On my mother's side here, I have one uncle, and he was a big leader in the church. And as a leader of the church here, he would lead what they call worship. It's not like we have here today at all. They didn't have any instruments or anything like that here, but he would lead the singing part, and he would be one of the main people in the church. Not near as big as this, really small place. And then one of his daughters got pregnant and had a child out of wedlock. He never went to church for 5 years after that. Didn't darken the door. Sad stories. But that's what happened. And you probably even have in your family have some of those kinds of stories that happen there as well. So what do all these things have in common? Go to the next slide here. You need to click it again here. I think it comes up. No, nothing else. Okay. What do they have in common? Okay, well, I would have to say they have several things in common. Each one of these stories, each one of these families here had a confrontation. The second thing they had here is, in that family here, they had probably a lack of forgiveness. There was something that happened here that to which somebody could not forgive. That was it. They could not do it. And so as a result here, there's total separation. Those are the things that they have, and those one. And then there's probably, I'm not sure, I didn't live in those households, but my guess is that there is an aura here, or there wasn't really the kind of place where you could really make mistakes. That's basically what we had there. Let's go on to the next one. The thing is that you forgive all the time. You might say, well, you're not very good at this here, and you can't even remember the last time that you said, I forgive you to somebody. But there are many times that we forgive all the time, every day. If you take a look at your brothers, your sisters, your spouse, or whatever, here are some of the things here that we generally do. I mean, children barf on your new dress. You forgive them. People break precious objects. My kids have done that many, many times. We forgive them. They buy the wrong thing when you give them extremely clear instructions as to what it is you want to buy. Or they smash your car. That's happened in our family here. They're always late. Or they're early. Or something like that. They take forever to get ready. They never clean up. They fart. They borrow your clothes without asking and then don't put them in the wash. Happened in my family many times. Big controversy, they forgave each other. They yell and say they hate you. They blab your secrets. They dress weird and embarrass you sometimes. I mean, these are just a few of the things that have happened in my family, your family too, I'm thinking. And what do? You say, oh, that's okay, or you don't use the words, I forgive you for that, or sometimes you do, but probably not. You just sort of hang out with them anyway, and everything is gone. Everything is okay. Until something happens, like happens here, and something happens that's too big for you to forgive. You just can't do it. You know what they said to me? You know what they did? Something like that. And then, once that happens, all of those things we have up there, and many, many more things we could add to that list here, become unforgivable as well too. So you step over the line here, and then everything that person is. I am just amazed. I remember working in this place, or this one guy here, and I mean, he gets married and wants to live with this person for the rest of his life, and then within a few months they're getting divorced. And what happened? Well, somebody stepped over a line, and once they step over the line, everything that they do is unforgivable. Okay, let's go next slide. So it's implied when we treat others, forgiveness isn't always verbal. It's implied when we treat others with kindness and inclusion. Often saying I love you is one way to communicate that we accept and forgive, even if we're not perfect. Okay, let's go to the next one. What happens when we decide not to forgive? So can you click again? There should be some more stuff that comes up there. Nothing. Okay. I guess it didn't come through in the email, in the email here then. Anyways, these are the things here that we could add here when we decide not to forgive. Resentment, bitterness, anger, vengeance, and distance. We see in these examples we have here, the distance is there. We see the vengeance is there. I want to just make that person hurt. And every time that person comes up here, you just get angry. Bitterness is part of that, and resentment. Those are the things here that fosters when we don't forgive. Now, I hope this next part comes up here. What does the Bible actually say about forgiveness? The Bible's big on forgiveness here. So here are some of the things here. Oh, there it goes. Hey, you got it up. Okay, next one. What does the Bible say about forgiveness? Keep going. Okay, here's one verse. I only picked a few verses. If we picked all the verses on forgiveness here, we would be here until February. But anyways, here. If therefore you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother has anything against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go your way. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. That's what we have to say now. If we just go back there, one more thing. See, what we learn here, forgiveness is, when I read that, I see forgiveness is important. If we're supposed to stop and do it right now, it's important for you not to sit on that. Do it right now, it's important. Okay, next one. When you stand praying, if you hold anything against anyone, forgive them, so that your Father in heaven may forgive your sins. Here we see it's also important. Here you see it has something to do with prayer too. This affects your prayer life. He says, forgive them. Otherwise, here, and of course, we also have the last part here, so that your Father in heaven may forgive your sins. It's important as far as that goes too. If you keep on, yeah, next one. Ephesians 4:31 and 32. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ God forgave you. So there's a lot in that. You could have many sermons on that. But the key thing I'm trying to point out here is right near at the end there, it says, forgiving each other. Jesus is commanding that. As Christ forgave you, he's giving you an example as well. Let's move on. Make allowance for each other's faults, and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. The one thing maybe we forget when we don't want to forgive is that those people that did something bad to you are God's children too. They are important to Him. And so it's important for us to treat them the same way that God forgave us. So you're not perfect. They're not perfect. God understands that. And we need to make allowance for each other's faults. Now, it might have been something big. I get that. We all get that. But did God not forgive you your big things? When you did something really, really bad, did He not say, I'll forgive you? He did. And He wants that to happen to you. So what happens, though, if we don't want to? If we want to just sort of make them pay, want to really hurt them? Well, there are some things on this one here. I think there's one story here that sticks out in my mind. I'm not sure if you've ever seen this movie. It's called Unbroken. And it's based on a book with the same title, Unbroken, by Laura Hildebrand. And it talks about this Louis Zamperini, probably saying that wrong, but he was an Olympic runner. And then the World War started, and he had to fight in the World War and got shot down, eventually got captured by the Japanese, and almost every day while he was in that internment camp or POW camp, whatever you want to call him there, he was singled out and humiliated because he was an Olympic athlete and an important person, so to speak here, and he was beaten to a pulp every day. Every day. And eventually the war ended and he survived. Came back, and this part's not in the movie unless you look at the special features, but it is in the book as well here and in the special features on that video. And when he came back, he did not function very well. He took into alcoholism, and his wife wanted to divorce him. He couldn't work very much at all here. that kind of thing, until he went to a Billy Graham crusade. And he found out there that it was important for him to forgive. And he was able to forgive that guard for beating him every day and for humiliating him. He's able to forgive him. And it changed his life. He was able to work no problem. The alcoholism was gone here, everything else like that. He was able to cope. No problems at all. As a matter of fact, when they had the Olympics in Nagano, the Winter Olympics, he carried the torch right past the POW camp where he was at. Now, if he can do that, can you do that? I hope so. And not only that, what if you don't want to? Well, it is going to eat you alive. What you are doing when you refuse to forgive is you are giving that person a space in your head, and they sit there and they just hound you. And every time you see that person or come up with a situation, it might even be you wake up in the night and you think about them and you just get angry. They're living in your head free rent and making your life miserable, just like they did this guy here, until he found out that, you know what, and you know what, sometimes those people that have done those things don't even know they've done them. They don't even know that they hurt your feelings, or what they said there was really, really made you angry. And we can think of this here even in politicians. Some of you people probably don't like our present Prime Minister. And you don't like the Premier making all these rules and stuff like that. You know what? And that makes you angry. I don't even think he really knows who you are. You know, so like he doesn't know what. So forgiveness is for you. It is not for them. If you forgive the Prime Minister, the Premier, or whoever it might be here, they are not going to be bolstered at all. You are. Forgiving is for us. Forgiving is so that we can actually love others and love God. And that's why He forgave you. Okay, let's move on. So what do we learn from all those passages? Do it now. It is important. It helps us pray. It's commanded. Jesus is an example. And those who forgive are God's children, and He loves them, and He forgave them too. It heals us mentally. It's important. Let's go on to the next. Now, here's another bunch of things here that I have trouble with in some of these, and it's important for me to put them down. I discuss them with some of my wife here sometimes here, and she says, well, in your sermon, Dennis, you said, remember? And forgiveness is not optional. You heard that from the scriptures. If you want to do the thing that God wants you to do, it's something you need to do. Forgiveness is not forgetting. So if somebody, like borrows your car and smashes it, don't let them do it again. Don't forget that, oh, they did that, so yeah, you can use my car again here. Unless they, somebody had some education involved there and stuff like that here, then that might be okay. But we don't forget about stuff. If they don't deal with money very well, they're dishonest with money, don't give them money. If they have a problem with addiction, don't forget that they have a problem with addiction here. You want to try and maybe remember some of that stuff here rather than forget. Otherwise, it's going to be repeated over and over and over again here. So it's not forgetting, it's about forgiving. Forgiveness is not letting them do it again. Someone will say, well, if I forgive my daughter here for getting pregnant, she's, my other daughters will get pregnant. No. Is that what God does to you? Does He forgive you your sin here and refuse to forgive you your sin so that because you will do it over again? No. Okay, so it's not letting them do it again. The other thing is forgiveness is not easy. Now, the whole purpose isn't hard. You can just sort of in your mind here when that event comes up say, I forgive that person.
You have to say it out loud. You have to just sort of do it in your head. But Satan will bring it up over and over and over again. And it'll be a little bit easier as it goes along. But it'll keep coming up. And so it's sometimes not very easy to do. And because of those events here, whatever bring hurt, it brings those memories of hurt back up again. I'm sure this Zipanelli here guy here, he remembered what happened in those internment camps frequently. I'm sure he remembered when he took that torch past that prison camp. He would have to forgive again and again and again and again. I mean, it's easy in that it's not something we need to physically do, but it's a mental thing here. Forgiveness is not instant. Forgiveness is not approval. If you forgive, that person did something wrong, and if you forgive them, you're not approving them to do it again. That's not what it is. And they might do it again, yeah, but it is not approval. Okay, let's keep on. Time to lighten the load. I guess maybe when we forgive, basically what it is we're saying is, God, I give this to you. This whole thing here that is in my head here, made me angry, I'm giving that over to you. And we're taking that entire load that has been put on our backs here and on our mental facilities here, we've taken that away and said, hey, let's get rid of that. Let's give it to you. I'm thinking that we have family stories here about a person going to the oil field, my uncle here who sold the business and moved off. I'm sure that if they had a chance to do it again, they would do it differently. I know my grandparents, it weighed really heavy on their heart. They wanted their son to come back over and over again. Every day they would pray for him. Every day they wished they hadn't done that. It's time to lighten the load. It's time to say that I'm going to take this and give it to God. Now there are some other things here on this next slide here I'd like to sort of talk about a bit. Some applications of forgiveness. I don't think I really need to do this here, but I'm going to go through it anyway because I want to make sure we get it. COVID is one. I realize that in our congregation in Mooseman here, we've got people that are vaccinated and people that are unvaccinated. I'm sure that's the case over here. I have one sister who's vaccinated. I have one sister who's not vaccinated. And I talk to them, and the one says, all those people who are unvaccinated, all I hear from them is anger. And I talked to my other one, and she's asked how her Christmas was, and she says, well, I want to get together with my in-laws, but they're just angry with me. So it doesn't matter which side we're on here, this side or that side, there's anger. You're angry because you can't go for coffee. You're angry because you have to wear a mask. You're angry because of this. You're angry because of that. You're angry because everybody won't get vaccinated. You're angry because people are taking it way too seriously, and on and just anger. Why don't we lighten the load? You're going to have, as silly as it sounds, maybe we're going to have to say, I forgive you for being vaccinated. I forgive you for being unvaccinated. Because the anger shows that we need forgiveness. That's what it's telling me. They've done something wrong. Someone's done something somewhere. It might be a politician or whatever, or people making rules. But regardless of who it is, let's get rid of this anger. And forgive these people for whatever it is you have done that's offended you. Work is the same thing. Let's forgive those people here, your boss or the co-workers, for doing things differently than you would. Maybe they didn't deal with that the way they should have. Do they not understand? And you've got some bitterness there. We've got to forgive them. You've got to, in the family, we talk about these things here in my family here and so on. I don't want that to happen in your family. That might be really embarrassing to have a kid with a baby here out of wedlock. But you're going to have to, God will give you the strength for that. Give it to God. Church. You know, my mother, she grew up in Regina mostly, and she moved to Saskatoon when she got older because there was this nice home where she could be at here, apartment, condo type thing here, with other people that are all from this, all Christians. The thing was run by several churches put together, and there's a church downstairs. And really nice facility. She loved it there. And I remember my sister saying, says, "Oh, Mom, these are all Christians in here, same denomination more or less as you. There must be no problems." She just laughed. Are you kidding? No problems? Here we are in a church. All of you here understand forgiveness totally. You've heard it before. Every time you have communion, we talk about forgiveness and so on. There should be no problems here, should there? What's happened? We've sometimes let it get away. We've let the anger there because we're not going to forgive. Neighbors, community. Your neighbor built a fence, you shouldn't have built a fence, or did something, or noisy parties, or whatever here. You're going to have to learn how to deal with that. Give it to God. Give that problem to God. See what happens. Okay, next one. The single act that allows one to obey the two great biblical commands. You get what it is? It's forgiveness. What allows us to love? Forgiveness. What removes anger? Forgiveness. What removes bitterness? Louder. What removes resentment? What removes vengeance? What improves our mental illness? Forgiveness. So what are we going to do? This is what you're going to, I talk to you about, like sometimes you say, well, I'd like to forgive, but that was really bad what happened. That was really terrible what happened to me. Well, what did Jesus do? I mean, these people here put him on the cross and were killing him. And in the midst of not being able to probably breathe and stuff like that, when he was on a cross, something like that, what did he say? Forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. And that's my challenge to you. To whatever it is that's causing anger in your life here, whenever you feel yourself getting angry, I think God's asking me, He's asking you to forgive. I don't want any of this happening to you. None of it.